This week on Tales of Citizens, we talk about ship balance and progression. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned. Yes, welcome one, welcome all, welcome to another exciting episode. We're going to be talking about ship balance and progression. Should some ships just straight up be better than other ships? How can you balance that? Is cost a factor? We'll be going over all of that stuff later on today. I do want to let you guys know that we will be recording this show live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Bridger 15 Twitch TV/Bridger15, and on the YouTube channel, which is under Sound Strategy Network. And you can find
every other Sunday to start.
Every other Sunday to start. Yes. Did I say every Sunday?
You're very enthusiastic about it. It's understandable.
Gray is keeping me honest here. Let me introduce him. Gray, another member of Team Legacy, along with myself. We are going to be making a squadron. Is it a squadron? Is that what people are calling it? Is it an organization?
I think that's it.
Fleet.
At this point, it's a squadron.
A fleet? Yeah. For Star Citizen. Also joining us, we have Calathulu, because I just got this, by the way, while I was thinking about your name. Calathulu, you're just taking the CA in Cthulhu and turning it from CA. You're like, that must mean California, so then you change it to Cali. That's brilliant.
It's the one time I've been brilliant in my life, so that's just kind of how it goes. But it really does. I often feel that servants of the dark and old gods are here in California, so I think we're set. I can go ahead and just declare my allegiance now. We are coming. We are Legion.
Excellent. So why don't we get started with the show? We're here today to talk about ship balance. And the thread that sort of got me started thinking about all this was, like many of the threads on the Robert Space Industries forums, completely and totally insane with the number of people that were responding. I get very frustrated when I try to go there because I want to have an impact on what's happening, right? I want to be able to say, hey, you guys, here's why you're wrong. But I can't say that because my post will be 6 pages past the point where everybody will stop reading.
Well,
So
isn't that the XKCD? I mean,
Yes.
XKCD, the relevant XKCD, someone on the internet is wrong.
And I
So
can't
it's time to
stop.
stay up all night.
Exactly. So anyway, this is the thread: potential trap in ship balancing. I thought for a moment that maybe they were referring to Admiral Akbar as a construction engineer or some kind of transvestite situation, but in fact they were talking Admiral Akbar we don't know if it's a he. That's an alien race. Anyway, so we're here talking about specifically, the question somebody said, our ship, why does the Constellation seem better than others? And there was a response from CIG, and it spawned a whole thing where people said, listen, the Constellation won't be better than everything else. And other people saying, of course it will be. And oh boy, it would almost turned into a my Constellation's better than your freelancer post, which is pretty much every other thread on the Robert Space Industries forums. So,
just a number of numbers after the title.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
And with all that hard data we have, I can see why it is a big deal right now.
yes, that hard data on the stats page that is so outdated. So today, that's what we're talking about. So let's start out by discussing what does it mean to say something is balanced? Because people use this phrase all the time, but I didn't really start thinking about it until recently. Let's define this. Calathulu, what does balanced mean?
Well, balanced, first and foremost, doesn't mean balanced across every ship. I mean, there are a variety of different roles. The Starfarer is a great freighter. Apparently so is the Banu Merchantman. The Idris is a corvette. What the hell that means in this game, we don't know yet. You've got fighters and fighters and fighters, multi-role fighters, dedicated bombers that are about the size of fighters. They can be loaded out as fighters. So what does balance mean? First, pick a role. So in a fighter, which one has the best maneuverability? Okay, that one's overpowered, 4 maneuverability. Which one has the best firepower? That one's overpowered, 4 firepower. You've gotta just kind of pick what it is that's just way too big a deal.
So then what sounds like what you're saying is that balance, there's no such single thing as balance. It's multiple aspects within a game need to be balanced. And I think it's perfectly, the perfect example is, let's say Team Fortress 2. In Team Fortress 2, both sides of the fight need to be balanced. But at the same time, each of the classes available needs to be balanced against each other. And within a single class, if you've got a choice of like 5 different primary weapons, they each need to be balanced against each other. All the choices that you make are what needs to be balanced at each individual branching point. Which team do you choose? Well, if it's supposed to be balanced, if this map is symmetrical, then it's automatically balanced by default. So then the choice at that point is balanced. If then which class you pick is balanced, et cetera, et cetera.
But then in Team Fortress 2, they also do things like, hey, I've got my rocket, and this rocket is, there are many like it, but this one is mine, and this one makes me walk at half speed, but I can do 4 times the damage, which means you're dead if someone gets a drop on you, but if you get the drop on them, they are equally dead.
Absolutely. So, Gray, let's bring it back to Star Citizen. Is it okay if some ships are better than others? And what does that mean?
Absolutely. I think the question about what's better than others is role defined. I think Calathulu had a really strong point about that. But when we start talking about the big hot button issue seems to be the Constellation. With the Connie, people seem to be very concerned that the ship is going to be more powerful as a space superiority fighter, or more powerful as a transport ship, or anything down the line. And they start asking questions like, why would you ever have a freelancer? And the answer to that is because you actually read what the ships do. The problem is when you're starting...
The more you know.
Yeah, exactly. When you start looking at things like the Constellation, because this is a great balance example, you have to start looking at what it means to have force multipliers. And what does it mean to say that you have 4 people? Now, if you're talking about 4 people in 4 Hornets, you're saying each person has an individual ship that they are piloting, they are firing, everything along the line. And that's their role as 4 separate space superiority fighters. Mm-hmm. When you're looking at a Constellation, say you have a crew of 4 people, you've got 1 person who's sitting in the pilot's chair, you've got 2 people in turrets, and you have a 4th person total sitting in the Merlin snub fighter. And that assumes that you don't have any sort of command and control chair, which is a little bit necessary if you're trying to coordinate different sensors and that kind of thing there. So when people are saying, oh, it's going to be a great space superiority fighter, it's going to be this amazing combat platform, and the damage is going to be amazing, and it's going to be a great transport.
And by the way, it's fast because it's got huge thrusters on it.
Yeah,
but only when it's not loaded with cargo and missiles. So,
but that's exactly it. You're dealing with a situation where they're trying to claim that in every situation it'll be superior, when in reality what they need is 4 to 5 people to make the ship even marginally effective. Unless, of course, you're going to trust your life to a bunch of NPCs, in which case, more power to you. I'll be waiting.
So when it comes to balancing ships in Star Citizen, there's obviously going to be a lot of trade-offs. Bigger ships mean bigger signatures. We already know that. So it's going to be easier to detect bigger ships, but bigger ships can mount bigger weapons. They're usually also going to be much slower because you need much larger thrusters, and your bigger mass is just going to make it less nimble because it's just that's the laws of physics. And it's also really, really useful for balancing. So that's when they do it in every game.
My Starfarer is going to be a speed demon. I don't know what you're talking about.
But
just every module is an engine upgrade. Every upgrade is just
engines strapped all around the ship with duct tape. That's it.
Just fill the cargo hold with engines.
50 tons of engines.
There you go. More
I've
engines
got the fuel
than
for
ship.
1 jump, but I get there in 2 seconds.
So, with all that having been said, there are certain limitations brought in other than simply size, other than simply, stats like bigger weapons and more upgrade slots. And I think the 2 biggest tools that CIG is going to have to balance their game is going to be number of players for it to be fully effective and cost of operation, including cost of replacement when it's damaged or destroyed. So those two are going to be the balancing factors. It may turn out that Auroras are really fantastic if you're going into a fight you know you're probably going to lose, because their cost of operation is much lower. So if you go in and lose 30 Auroras in a fight, but you take out a Constellation and 2 Retaliators, then your faction has won the economic war. I'm just making up numbers here, but let's say in this scenario, it's very possible you won the economic war there, and you forced them into maybe having a Pyrrhic victory. Sure, they killed all your Auroras, but they lost more than you did. So
up until half of your fleet has permadeath because you took 30 Auroras and everyone got shot up.
Yeah, turns out those special escape pods weren't as foolproof as Joker had told us they were.
Well, I mean, at the same time, there is something to be considered about having a large number of ships versus a small number of ships. It's going to be very difficult to properly target escape pods if you're trying to punish people. If you have 28 Auroras after you've just killed 2, you're not going to be targeting the 2 escape pods. You're going to be killing the 28 Auroras.
Yeah.
So as long as you're properly rotating your fleet in, it's very possible that those Pyrrhic victories will become a thing. We may end up with some, unfortunately, I hate to bring them up, Goon Squad style fights where you have those small fleets or small ships and large fleets swarming down the bigger targets. Not even necessarily kamikaze, but just getting in there with that many small ships that you can afford to lose them and know that you won't have permadeath issues because people can't take the time to kill you.
And
well, that's true.
Glowfi in the chat, in the YouTube comments, mentions the extra credits episode on perfect imbalance. And
yes,
in some ways that episode talks about how you make asymmetrical balance, in that you make things different and stronger in different ways such that it causes almost a rock, paper, scissors effect where some things are better against other things, but then those things are better against other things, but then those things are better than other things. And they use League of Legends a lot as an example. And
it's exactly what Chris Roberts and team have said they're going to do for balancing in Star Citizen in interview after interview. So they've got that going for them already.
Yeah, you know that what they're trying to put together is a World War II feeling game in terms of the dogfighting and things like that. Yeah. But I think even more than that, one of the coolest sights that I can think of and imagine as far as like military power and combined arms and coordinated is like a World War II era fleet where you have like a couple of aircraft carriers and battleships surrounded by heavy cruisers, surrounded by light cruisers, surrounded by destroyers, and just that having that formation and screening the major players. But nowadays they don't do that anymore because they have an aircraft carrier with Tomahawk missiles loaded on whatever missile destroyers that can hit you from thousands of miles away. Doesn't matter if your destroyer is in between the two of them, but if they can...
To be fair, that's not actually accurate in some cases.
Really?
Just to go off on that little rabbit trail. There have been war games in the Persian Gulf where they've been working on how to screen aircraft carriers and larger battleships, well, not battleships, but larger vessels,
cruisers,
from swarms of theoretical, obviously not real, Iranian small patrol boats.
Oh,
and they found that they actually do have a need to properly screen the larger ships because the smaller swarms are, in fact, effective enough to at least make it a Pyrrhic victory kind of thing. We don't want to lose an aircraft carrier.
No, I agree with you. That's like losing a Bengal.
To a degree, I mean, Roberts will be able to draw upon some of those very recent military exercises that have been released to media outlets and be able to say, these are things that we can look at and say, well, if they have this number of smaller ships, how does that affect in current naval combat a larger vessel? And that's a good thing to be able to start with. Being able to say, yeah, they do have the Tomahawks. They do have, the railgun on an Indris M. But there should be some balance out to that if there's a sufficient number of smaller ships. Balance out simply meaning you can't kill them all at once.
What I hope to see is something like your big ships can mount really big guns that are really good at killing other big ships. But when they do that, they're not mounting the small point defense guns that will protect them against small ships. So then what you'd have to do is you'd have to have your Idris or just the unnamed destroyer that they mentioned but didn't actually give any details about. Those kind of ships would be protected and surrounded by 300s and Auroras and Hornets and things like that. to basically anybody that tries to just bug straight for that big ship, which is vulnerable to smaller fighters, would have to get through your fighter screen. That would just make for such cool strategy. What do you think, Calithulu?
Well, the thing about it is, if we're going to borrow it from the World War II era naval dichotomy, then it actually won't be fighters that'll be a problem. Your fighters are out there to escort your bombers in to get the big ships, because the big ships have plenty of guns to knock down fighters, but they aren't so good about knocking down high-speed torpedoes and missiles coming in and slapping them silly. But they've got the big guns to take on your big ships, so you get back to paper, rock, and scissors. So ultimately, what you're looking at there is, like we talked about Pyrrhic victories, and you really hope that the cost of running one Idris is going to equal out or be more expensive than 30 Auroras, because if it's not, then you're really not getting any Pyrrhic victories. Bigger ships will always be better. But there is the argument for the economy of scale too. I mean, I have 10 people on that Idris. Shouldn't it be as effective or more effective than 10 people on their own would be?
Yep, absolutely. And that comes to how many people do you actually need on an Idris? Can you afford to send 2 or 3 of the what is it, 9 official crew stations? I think 10.
Yeah. 10, but they have a flight deck too.
Right. So you have 12 officially, technically, if you have those 2. I think it's a hangar for 2, right? 2 smaller fighters.
Two or three.
2 or 3. So
I think it was 2 they were saying last.
So
okay.
But,
the main
stats subject.
the main
right?
point being that can you fly, and it, like, if you take away 3 of those 10 stations, does it still work at more than 70% efficiency is what I'm trying to get at there. If you had those 3 people in their own ships, or those 3 people in their own constellation or something to that effect, would that be better? And those kinds of questions are going to be coming up, especially when users are joining my channel, because I forgot to quit TeamSpeak. But those kinds of questions and balancing opportunities are going to be what they have to deal with when it comes to the beta of the full, dogfight, and multiplayer situation happening. So we'll see.
This is probably going to come down to a lot more of that rock, paper, scissors you're talking about. When we're saying, is it better to have an Idris plus a constellation, so you split 3 people into the Connie and you've got 9 in the Idris or whatever it is. Does the constellation have sufficient force multipliers to make 3 people in that ship anywhere near as good as 3 people manning turrets in the Idris? Mobility completely aside, just from a firepower perspective.
Or how good is the AI at gunning?
It really gets my inner, like, statistician. I don't think that's even a word, but I just made it up.
Tactician.
Strategist.
Strategos. My inner, like, planning mind, like, maybe if we can try to draw out when they only have this fleet with small numbers, can we do, but then I don't have any information, so I'm just making this up as I go along. So let's move on to the next question then. So sorry, go ahead, Gray. Let's finish this up.
Go ahead.
But on the subject of balance, I mean, we're talking about all these different ships and the different roles, rock, paper, scissors. But should any ship be allowed to always be a better rock? We were talking about that. Is there any vertical progression, or is it all horizontal?
So you're saying if I start with an Aurora Legionnaire, and I want the best single seat dogfighter I can get, and I have infinite money, and I get the Aurora Legionnaire, and I pimp it out and I upgrade it all the way, is that better than a 300I or 325A pimped out? Or is that better than a Hornet pimped out at the specific role of single seat interceptor fighter, whatever?
Absolutely.
Well, that's a really loaded question. Because you just said in the specific role of interceptor or fighter or whatever. That's actually 3 different roles you just mentioned.
Fair enough. Okay, pick one of them then for the purposes of this explanation. And is it okay if one of those ships is better than the other ones at that role?
Yeah.
Okay, but
now
if that's the case, doesn't that
short,
mean that the other ships might just become obsolete?
Obsolete for a specific role, perhaps, or less ideal for a specific role. But there's going to be a question of, is, for example, a 300i a stronger dogfighter? Is it a ship that's better at just heads up fighting people head on? You both show up in the instance, you both see each other immediately, and you both blow each other up. Um, versus, say, maybe the Aurora LN proves to be a much better ambusher because of the weapon slots that it has. What,
Smaller
four
profile.
a smaller profile would have like
Yeah.
four specific spots. The
And really
where the
impressive
other one has
visibility.
three.
I
Or,
don't think anybody gives Aurora enough credit for the amount of visibility you have up there.
That's true.
and
It is one of the better cockpits.
I think we're going to see a lot of questions about specific roles of fighters, or specific roles of traders, or specific roles of even capital ships. And
Mm.
yes, it's absolutely fine for one ship to be better than another ship all the time at that role, because that's going to force you to say, what ship should I take this situation? It's going to force the ships to be differentiated enough, which is great for game development, um, to say that, yeah, I'm going to want a 300i for this dogfighting situation, unless I'm fighting a Hornet.
Fair enough. But what if
And
the
all of a
300i?
sudden, yeah,
What
just
if that
a smaller game
300i
of rock,
costs
paper,
twice
scissors.
as much? Yeah, if 300i costs twice as much to run for fuel, for reloads, whatever you want, as that Aurora LN, maybe the Aurora 300i is a better fighter, a flat out, fighter. But if I'm going to go bankrupt doing it, do I want the Aurora instead?
Now that brings up an interesting question, because a lot of the gameplay when it comes to Star Citizen is going to be the large organizations faction warfare, right? That's what a
Yes.
lot of people are looking forward to, fighting over
Absolutely.
territory, that sort of Guild Wars 2 world v world feeling, the large scale PvP, Planet Side 2 style, like hundreds of people fighting together for a specific goal. Now, if that is the case, and if they balance a lot of the ships based on cost, meaning like what you just explained, the 300i may be better than the Aurora, but it costs more to run, it costs more to replace. Are organizations with benefactors, wealthy people that would be able to infuse the organization with cash vis-a-vis real money transactions, or maybe multiple versions of those people, because they've said each person's going to have a limit, but there's going to be a black market for interstellar credits in Star Citizen.
There
There
always
always
is.
is. No way they're going to be able to stop it, and there's the black market and a white market, so there's going to be even more potential cash infused in the system. Does that mean if rich organization the third is fielding like all of the most expensive ships because they can afford to throw them away, and pauper organization over here isn't able to do that, they're scraping by what they can with their in-game credits, is that a sort of potential imbalance situation? I could see a lot of people getting upset by that concept.
It is an upsetting concept, and what it comes down to, or what it should come down to, is when it comes to balancing, the 300i is the better fighter, but highly skilled hotshot dogfighter, or not, I'm more like a flying brick. But the point is, if I were a hotshot dogfighter, in my Aurora, had a chance at that 300i, maybe not against Constellations, a four-man ship, et cetera. But that's why when they say they want this game to be about player skill, I think discussion of balancing the ships, the flat stats, etc., goes a long way. But if you're just a flat out better pilot, gunner, ambusher, what have you,
You can pull a Cobra.
there you go.
We'll hit the brakes, it'll fly right by. So,
Or in a ZN Scout, which is relatively cheap, you just turn around, hit your main
think it's
thrusters, and fly
Sheehan.
backwards.
I think it's Sheehan. Is it Sheehan?
Sheehan? It could be
I don't know
Sheehan.
if
They
ZN,
mentioned
but
they
I don't know.
mentioned it in one of the commercials. I think it's
Oh.
the Hornet commercial. They it sounds like they use the word Sheehan to refer to another race, and that's why I think that's what it is. We'll pull
That
it
would
up
make
at the end of
sense.
the show and listen to it. I'm pretty sure I heard it in there somewhere.
So X makes a sh sound. Interesting.
In there, well, it's completely another race. It could be anything.
It's future English.
It could
My
even be
bad.
a boat. So then what about ship upgrades? Do you expect the ship upgrades to handle the same way? Some are just straight up going to be quote unquote better, more optimal, but they're going to be cost differences and there's going to be other trade-offs?
I don't personally. I mean, what they've revealed so far about upgrades is if you want to get a better radar, it's going to be noisier. people will notice you a lot more easily, even as you notice them more easily. If you want a better gunnery system, it's going to take more power, or has a chance of burnout, or what have you. And I think Ian, you were talking about overclocking.
Yeah, yeah. The concept of overclocking, and they're saying that there's going to be a market for it. The workbench that we've already got in the hangar will be the platform for that. I suspect overclocking is going to be more about making they call it the pieces you already have, the components you already have, into something that's a little better tailored for you, but it won't really change the function. So if I played around with overclocking on my 350R's two engines, for example, I'm still never going to hit the same stealth profile as a stealth Hornet. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
They specifically made specific components to do things. And at the same time, my stealth Hornet's little or if dinky little engine there that keeps you from being seen will never, with any amount of overclocking, match a 350R's speed profile. The components themselves will probably be the limiters, but being able to tweak those to your advantage may very well make your ship better than the next guy up the rung. Having a mass driver that fires faster might be enough to kill someone before they can kill you head on. That's pretty huge.
And you won't need all that power the lasers would have taken, etc.
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
So the whole concept of the tweaking and overclocking things to get them exactly right and deciding, and Eve has this similar model where, ship hull X gives you this much CPU, this much power, and these hard points. And then you have to put in different things like, oh, well, I could fit this on here, but if I put that on, I won't have enough CPU to put this other thing on there. But maybe if I put this CPU, overclocker in, that will give me more CU at the expense of power, but I'll lose a hard point. Is it worth it? And those kind of concepts are great because they keep people like who love to tweak it, magic constructed deck people is what I like to call them, They love building the thing they're going to eventually use to a specific purpose. And I love that whole concept. And that can be really good because that is also fantastic at obfuscating the most optimal thing available.
It really is.
Absolutely.
And I try to go ahead.
And that plays back into their salvage mechanic they were talking about, where you blow up an NPC or a player's ship and you salvage a couple of parts, and you can use that as a recipe for whatever you're going to do for the next thing, which is a pretty awesome idea.
Yeah, the thing I always have to try and explain to people, because I guess not a lot of people understand, is there are people who post on the Star Citizen forums, the main RSI forums, and they drive me crazy because they say, no, all the ships will be perfectly balanced. There won't be a best ship. And that is just patently wrong. Even if RSI, or CIG, I should say, CIG and Chris Roberts and all the other people there do a phenomenal job of balancing this game. And they get tons of great feedback from the players, and they balance it really well. There will still be 2 or 3 fits on 1 or maybe 2 ships that will be considered optimal for the role of explorer, or optimal for the role of interceptor, or optimal for the role of insert X, because games are made of programs, and programs are made of math, and math is deterministic. That's what it all comes down to.
And I can guarantee a ship right now that will be better than another ship. As I speak, I know the exact model number. The true F-7A will always be a better dogfighter than the F-7C. Mm-hmm. Because it's the full military, has the full support of a government behind it. It will kick your F-7C's ass. It should.
Yep. So the other thing and the other thing I try to point out to these people is try to think of a game that had asymmetrical choices, such as characters in a fighting game, or factions, or champions in League of Legends, or any other thing. And if you ask, and it has to be some kind of a competitive game, because if it's a garbage game that nobody plays because it's broken, it doesn't really count. It just proves my point. But if you ask the top competitors in that game, they will name for you the tier A characters, the tier B characters, the tier C characters, and they'll name you the tier F characters.
There's huge forums that are devoted to hundreds of pages of discussing exactly why this is a tier A minus versus a tier B plus.
Right, and the point is that the best balanced games in the world have a subset of about a third, maybe 30% of their choices, their main character or ship or whatever faction choices, are considered top tier. And it's very difficult to get any more than that. And what you can hope for is to get like a very large top tier and a very large second top tier, and you're going to have a bunch of other characters that are just not considered as good, or ships in this case. So
absolutely.
you're just going to have to accept that. That's
But
really
even in those games, you still have the dark horse that comes in with the non-optimum setup, and then just bam, they win, surprises everybody. I mean, Guild Wars, the first Guild Wars had a lot of that. Guild Wars 2 has seen some of that, as far as like, what the optimum group is for what. So there is always that, hey, your personal skill will still help overcome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
and RSI has been, completely unapologetic about the fact that there will be starter ships. There will be, starter Auroras, and there'll be starter, what is the new one, the Mustang?
That's right, the Mustang. I forgot about that.
Pretty good money that those ships will not be optimal for any particular role.
But
I still want the convertible Mustang.
Yeah, and that's and that's true. I mean,
warning: wear spacesuit.
The Rifter in Eve is sort of the starting. It's a low. Actually, no, that's not a starting frigate at all. It's a later frigate. But I mean, the frigate that you start with in Eve, for whatever faction you start with, is not used on a regular basis, to my knowledge. Maybe I'm wrong, but it has been a long time. But I think the ship that you start in is generally not the ship that anybody uses once they have enough experience, skills, and money to move on to a better ship. But the hope is that there's as few as possible in that quote-unquote useless category, and as many as possible in that top tier. And with the way that it looks like they're building it, I think they've got a very good chance of obfuscating that information, making it impossible for humans to really tell the difference between top tier and just below top tier. If they can strike that balance, it'll still be incredibly fun to play a large swath of ships. Anything in the top 50% should still be really fun, and you can accept that, okay, maybe this is a 2 to 5% less optimal. I might do a tiny bit better in some other ship, but I like this one better. This is my ship. There are others like it, but this one is mine,
And on that note, Ruik makes a very good point over on our Twitch stream here. It's military weapons sort of thing. If you have a 22 rifle, it's not the most powerful weapon or the fastest firing, but it's still as deadly as a single round from any other ship. The question's going to be, the 300i is going to have the same hard points as an Aurora. You're not going to get a bigger gun on a lot of the 300i's versus an Aurora. It's just, as he noted, there's a higher opportunity on the 300i to kill someone than there would be on the Aurora, simply just due to other factors, whether that's mobility or speed, stealth profile, turning radius, you name it. There's a reason that you'd pick the 300i, but if you're stupid and drifting in space, people will still kill you with an Aurora. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. If you're in an Idris with one person, I think you could pretty safely bet that someone's going to come pick you apart if they can get through your shields before you get through 6
It's called a skeleton crew for a reason. Because if you're flying an Idris with 2 people, you're about to become a skeleton. Because your flesh is about to be destroyed by fire. So Calathulu, a lot of people in this argument, this discussion on threads like the one that we talked about that started this whole discussion, talk about, if things are all perfectly balanced and there's no reason to go to another ship once you get better or once you get more money, there's no sense of progression. So I would argue, okay, well, what does it mean to have progression in an open-ended game? This is going to be essentially a sandbox game. Is there going to be a point where people say, well, I've got enough money, so I've bought the best ship, and now I don't have anything else to do, I quit? Do you think people are going to do that?
That might happen. That happens in every MMO that's out there. But I think that with something like a sandbox style open-ended world MMO game, you might do something like, oh, we're going to head into deep space, lawless sectors, and we're going to own that bitch. That's our lawless sector. We're going to take that over, and we'll set up shop. We will rule this. It's our little fiefdom. Or it might be, you know what? I've had fun with my ship, and I'm going to go there and I'm going to start buying factories. I've got the cash for it. I'll start producing weapons. It all is going to come down to the conflicts the players create, be it trade, exploration. I'll be the first one through a new jump hole, uh, wormhole, jump point, whatever you
Jump
want to call
hole.
it. Jump hole. Woohoo! Yeah, you're going to, it's going to be a lot of what the players make, but, getting a better ship to fit the role you want should absolutely be a part of that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's going to be a progression where people start with their Aurora or their Mustang or even a 300i, and they'll slowly. Part of it is going to be you got to catch them all, right? I mean, everybody's going to want the versatility of jumping to what they perceive as, well, I want one ship for exploration, I want another one for when I'm doing this, and when I'm escorting, I want this, and when I want to be able to catch things, I need this. So that's at
When
least
I'm
going to
stuck
be
fighting an Idris, I want this.
exactly.
I want my destroyer for that.
I
Well,
want my
the
Retaliator.
other argument
What class is a
for
Retaliator, by the way? It's smaller than a Corvette, right? It's not considered a
it
Corvette.
is not a cap ship as far as
Not
that goes.
capital.
It's a bomber, a
It's
heavy
a
bomber,
it's
I guess.
yeah, it'd be like I had a comparison chart for these at one point, and I can't recall where it's at.
It's a
But
little
I would
larger than a Constellation, maybe a third
well,
A
larger.
few meters. According
yeah,
to
Oh,
the comparison charts people put together, they were comparing size of airlock and size of chairs and doors.
yeah,
Very
try to
clever,
match it
actually.
all up.
Props to the fan base for being, that thorough. Uh,
But
but it looks like the Retaliator is only a few meters longer than the Constellation.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, I'd liken it to a light short range bomber versus, like, or maybe like a B-17 to like a B-29 kind of thing. Yeah, if you're looking at it that way, it's a bomber. It's not a capital ship, which, because we have to mix the Air Force and the Navy now with the space game, right? So, it's
yep.
not your destroyer size all bomb ship, but it is definitely a larger bomber.
I noticed there's a
yeah.
very large gap between the Idris and the Bengal in this particular. I mean, we're definitely going to need a destroyer in there, and then we're going to need a cruiser, and then we're going to need a heavy cruiser. I'm guessing
In that
things
gap
like
is 80% of the things you will die to.
yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Okay, so let's get to finishing up this discussion and then move on. There's one more thing I want to talk about, which is one of the ways that a lot of games stay fresh and that balance is fluid is that games, especially competitive games, get a lot of patches, and especially MMOs will get a lot of patches to balance things. League of Legends gets a balance patch every 2 weeks, basically. So, do you think that CIG, once the game goes live, will be putting out the same kinds of changes? Like, oh, it turns out that somebody put together this perfect fit for a 300i that makes it the best thing since sliced bread when it comes to roll X, and we didn't see that before, we didn't catch it in the thing, we're going to need to nerf this specific aspect of the 300i so that that's not possible. Do you see that happening?
No.
Really?
I don't see them making those sorts of tweaks to ships, to be honest with you. I think we may see tweaks to cooling systems, things along those lines. But I think what we're much more likely to see, in a strange way, is sort of undertuned vessels coming out of the dogfighting module.
Hmm.
That's not to say unplayable or bad or anything else, but I think that most of the stock components that we're going to be seeing are going to be pretty low end.
That
I don't
that's
think
what
that
they've
we're going to
said.
have an
Yeah.
issue with somebody taking their stock or even overtuned mass driver and going out and blowing holes through an Idris that seems inappropriate. I think they're going to base the weapons realistically enough to start that we're not going to have issues with, oh, we have to get that lower by 10% or we have to get that higher by 6% or whatever it is. If they start low, which it sounds like fights are going to be pretty brutal to start with, so starting
Hmm.
low seems perfectly reasonable. Trying to go up is as simple as introducing new cooling systems for the weapon or introducing new add-ons to your ship, like a reactive armor patch for the 300i that if you buy it, you could potentially have a little better situation with, against projectile weapons, you can now survive.
Can we survive against Cylons?
We might be able to. It depends what his Mike's going to do to us there.
Gray just Cyloned on us.
I'm going to go with...
That's the popular term.
It is. I'm going to go with yes. Yes,
okay.
We will see patches to ships. Yes, we will see... we didn't realize you were going to be able to mount a... Star Fury cannon Mark 17 on this thing with the power requirements, and also still have the adaptive shields, but only in a configuration where it's a neutron type of damage or whatever it's going to be. So they're going to find little ways to try and bring the ships back in line with where they were designed to be. But this is all presupposed on the idea that there is that vertical progression. If they have a ship, the 300i, say, that is perfect in all ways, and they expected you to progress from that to a Hornet, and you're not doing it because you found this perfect niche that the Hornet can't compete in and is being defeated in constantly, that would kind of violate their game design. So they might come back and patch that, or they'll release new components for the Hornet that would make it immune or have the 300i's role in reduced effectiveness when actually competing against a Hornet, which is the way I hope they go, but that's probably the harder balancing path overall.
I think we definitely will see some kind of balancing patches come out at various points, because for me the sort of nightmare scenario is everybody's flying a Hornet or a Super Hornet because people have simply discovered that this is the best thing. Now, we're going to have plenty of time, hopefully, during the beta and the dogfighting alpha, which maybe the multiplayer will come out in January. So maybe we'll have a whole year or so of messing with these things. But I could still see them putting out updates that say something along the lines of, Anvil regrets that they have had some cost issues and a former supplier has gone bankrupt, so they're going to need to get parts from somewhere else. And so the new such and such is going from now on. New waves of Hornets will be a little bit more expensive than they used to be, or the cooling systems will be not as good. If they need to buff something, it's like we've had a breakthrough. Our research department has gone and found a new way of cooling this or that, or they've cut some of the power requirements, and they could couch it easily within the universe, and that would make it all the cooler, if you ask me. So I think we'll see it. Hopefully we won't see it as much when the game goes live, because we'll have this whole year of balancing things. But adapting to the game as the balance changes is a lot of the fun that you get from these kind of things, because for me the challenge is examining a puzzle and then trying to determine what is my best course of action here. That's what everybody's trying to do. So my final comment on this is, don't get mad at the people who are trying to find out the best thing to do, because that's their Goram job. It's a game. Your job is to find the most efficient path to victory.
Just get mad at the people that are making cookie cutter copies because it's what someone on the forums said once, which is another problem we find in a lot of these MMOs.
Gray Templar asks if Star Citizen is aiming to be the next EVE Online. Well,
no.
Yes and no. If you imagine EVE Online, but with a Twitch-based combat system instead of a hotkey MMO-based combat system that basically flies itself, then you will have... And if you imagine it in sort of World War II flight mechanics, because that's what Chris Roberts describes it as much as possible, is the game is supposed to have the fun and skill involved in a sort of World War II dogfight, but doing it in space, trying to use realistic physics as much as possible. So he's going to make concessions in places in order to make the game more skill-based and more fun. For example, even though in the future drones would be way better and superior to people in all ways, 900 years from now, there will be basically no drones in the game, because that would be boring as shit. So,
you know of only one drone right now, which is their repair drone, which is one of the rewards, and that's part of a boarding thing. Like, you actually break that bad boy out when you walk onto a ship, from what I had read about it.
And if you're gonna make anything automated, make it the healer role.
Yeah.
All right, so that I think concludes.
The voice of thousands of Warcraft players cried out and were silent.
There you go.
It's a Twitch-based game.
Yes, and he has mentioned that he's trying to make it as skillful as possible, meaning player skill matters the most, more than anything else, more than the level of your character's so-and-so skill or what have you. And to me, what that means is if they implement the kind of like, oh crap, there's damage, and you send your engineer to the other end of the Idris to try and fix the engine, then what he winds up doing is opening like a panel and playing a sort of mini game, a puzzle, to try and rewire the panel. So Scotty's in the back playing this mini game, but it looks like he's rewiring things, but visually it's just like a game like the pipes game. Like you had to connect the pipes together to go from one side to the other, and the stuff's moving, and so you use one of those simple mini games that exist everywhere. You make it go faster if the damage is more severe or if you're trying to fix a more broken system, and that way there is some skill involved, even if it's not a lot.
Healing is still whack-a-mole in that case.
No, because whack-a-mole would be like in Guns of Icarus, where you hit things with a wrench in order to fix them.
I'm saying an awesome mini. Here comes the damage. I'm just gonna...
All right. So anyway, that's the data analysis. That's our segment where we go deep into a specific topic and sort of mull it over for a good 40-45 minutes. Healing is now Candy Crush. Thanks, Twigs. So we skipped this at the beginning because I was so excited to get to data analysis. I completely forgot to ask you guys what you've been doing this week. Calathulu, what have you been doing? What have you been up to?
Well, I broke out the brand new X Rebirth in spite of the cries of anguish of a million nerds that were suddenly silenced. And I will say this, it is not the X game I signed up to buy. It is not a terrible game. It's a kind of a fun little console style. You get your Xbox controller, you move around, you're flying through it, and people have difficulties, but that's just me, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but there were complaints about Crash and Death, so I haven't seen any of that. But like I said, not the game I expected. I'm going to go with worth buying, maybe at a 50% off sale.
And maybe in the future when it's patched.
Well, that will always happen.
Yeah.
So I feel a little misled by the guys at EgoSoft. I don't feel the massive rectal anger that so many people on the
internet. Are you a
seem
former
to.
X Games fan? Did you play the other X Games?
I played X3, like that entire set, X3 Reunion, Terran Conflict, or X2 Reunion, and Albion Prelude. I loved that style of sandbox game, but unfortunately, I may not be far enough into this one yet to really feel it, but it doesn't feel at all like the same game. It feels a lot more like Freelancer, actually.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So what have you been up to, Gray? Have you been? I know you were excited about the new sale coming up.
I am. I've been trying to figure out if there's anything I need to pick up. I'm really excited.
Just putting
to
together your
see
shopping
the
list.
limited
Like, I could get another 300 series, but which one? I don't know. I'm gonna have to go ask the wife.
I like the one I've got now, but it's some of the other ones. It is pretty exciting to see CIG bring all of them back, and for that matter, it's good to see that they're going to be taking the bite out of the gray market a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not by personally saying the
basically
market
shutting
is
it
bad.
down for now until the sale, at least.
Not only between now and the sale, but possibly even after the sale, this could kill most of the demand. Particularly if it comes out, it's over their head. They won't talk about it on Wingman's hangar, but it's possible that maybe we could be flying ships we don't own in the dogfighting module.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a pretty big way to kick the gray market in the teeth. People aren't going to have to buy at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's exciting to see what comes out, and I am very interested to see whatever turns up for the Band of Trader. I am definitely a fan of the Econ.
That Merchantman sounds like something pretty badass.
Yes. It'd be a nice addition to possibly something faster than my Starfarer, but still capable.
One would hope.
One would hope. If it's slower than the Starfarer, we've got some issues.
All right, so I tell you what I've been doing. I went to see Ender's Game, and I've been rereading Ender's Game as well. And It's a little bit disappointing, but I mean, I wasn't overexcited. I knew it wasn't necessarily going to be. I knew there was a very good chance it wasn't going to be the best thing ever, right? It's Ender's Game is a really difficult book. I mean, the book was praised when it first came out. What was that? The late 70s, early 80s when it won the Hugo Award? I can't even remember.
I think it was the early 80s, yeah.
Early 80s. So, I mean, it's been around and popular since then, but it never made it to the screen because it's so hard to write for. And part of that, I think, is because so much of it takes place in Ender's head. But for those of you who haven't read it and are listening to this podcast, you're doing it wrong. Go read the book right now. Turn it off. Buy it on Audible.
Library. You don't even have to buy it.
Yes, it's so fantastic. But I will say this for the movie, spoiler-free review. I thought it was worth the $5 I paid to go see it. We went to see it on $5 Tuesday, and it was still enjoyable. Its major problems were it went too fast. If there's a movie that needed to compete with Return of the King for longest movie ever, this was one of them. In order to be a better movie, it needed to be longer. It felt very rushed from place to place to place. And I will quote my friend Rob here. You may know him as Tibret. If there's a movie that needed a montage more than this, it might only be Rocky. Like, this watching this movie felt like watching a Rocky movie without the montage. It's like you see Rocky just starting and getting his ass beat at the beginning, and then he starts a training regimen and he punches a bag 3 times, and then they cut to him fighting the champ as like the best guy ever. Like, that's kind of what it felt like. That's one of the, if they just had a montage showing him training, it would have felt much less disjointed. So that's what I've been doing recently. So I decided to leave this until after we actually got the Star Citizen discussion out of the way. For those of you that want to know more about what this podcast is going to be about and what we're doing here, I wanted to briefly touch on those points. Because plenty of other podcasts, the first thing they do when you listen to the very first show is talk about what the podcast is going to be. And so I figured since everybody else does it, then I have to as well, I guess. I don't know. So what are we going to be doing here? First, let's talk about what we're not going to be doing. We're not going to be regurgitating the news. And not that that's a bad thing. A lot of people are already doing that. There's plenty of other great podcasts out there. The Whole Truth is one that comes to mind, where they specifically go over all of the things that we have learned in the last couple of weeks or a week or so from dev posts and other things. And they do a good job of basically collecting all that information and organizing it and giving you an easy place to listen to it. So those kind of services exist. That's not what we're here for. We're not here to do that. We're trying to do something different. What we're trying to do is ask questions that have insightful, meaningful answers that are not obvious. If we want to talk about something on this show, what I've told my co-hosts is we need to make sure it doesn't have an obvious answer. Like, if somebody suggests the topic, you should talk about how cool the constellation is. Like, if we just got up here and said, so guys, constellation, pretty cool? Pretty cool. I don't know. I think it's only kind of cool. All right. Glad we could all agree. Like, we don't want that. We want us here to disagree on things. That's what makes for really, and I'll take devil's advocate sometimes in order to make for interesting discussions, because that's what we're looking for. Something that you can walk away from and go, you know, that really made me think of something I didn't think before. If we're not doing that, we're failing, because that's my goal. Also to talk about and have fun making entertainment and stories. If we go off topic to talk about something that has to do with Cylons, I don't mind. I'll try to pull us back on topic after a few minutes, but that's okay. So, whew. All right.
It was half a rant right there,
It
Bridget.
was. It's half a rant. So why don't we just do very briefly talk about who we are? Calathulu, who are you? What do you want?
I think I covered that earlier.
Did you get that reference?
Here. Yeah, I am a worshiper of the dark gods. No, in all seriousness, I'm a software engineer. I've been a huge fan of flight sims for 20 years now. Started with X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. From this show, you know, what I really want is pretty much what Bridget's talked about. I want something that's kind of the everyman's discussion of Star Citizen. You know, I come from a gaming background involving flight sims and Eve, other MMOs, Guild Wars 2. And you know, my real preference is for games that allow you to kind of create the story that you want to play instead of putting you on a rail and just running you through it. But at the same time, they actually require real skill and interaction and thought to overcome. And of course, these days, since I do have a 3-year-old daughter, my time for gaming is non-existent. So I want I can drop in, play for 30 minutes, and then get out without feeling like I'm just wasting my time for 30 minutes.
Absolutely.
But as far as like some of the great flight sims of all time, obviously Wing Commander. But I'm also a massive fan of X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. And if you can recapture that feeling you have in TIE Fighter when you've got the orders to go and bomb that calamari cruiser, and you're flying through there, and there's a fight between a destroyer and another cruiser, and you got your targets between the two of them, and you're going flying by, hoping like hell no cap ship gun blows up your little bomber without even trying. If they can recreate that feel, Star Citizen will be that success.
Absolutely. So, Gray, what are your sort of preferences in gaming history and things like that?
Well, let's see here. I started way back in the day with some of the very early consoles, just playing around with whatever I could get my hands on, some of the very early flight sims for that matter. Discovered PC gaming with an Acer back in '94, the original Descent game, actually. So
Yeah.
a little bit of the 6 Degrees of Freedom going on there. It was a real blast. Moved from there into things like Wing Commander, and actually RTS titles were my big thing for quite a while. From there, it's been a steady progression. A little bit of ammo, a little bit of shooter. Still look for a decent flight sim, but Star Citizen actually goes back to those roots I had with Descent. You got the space sim, you had interesting content. Here's hoping that it lives up to everything. Plus, econ. I mean, come on. Gotta love the economics.
Oh, everybody loves the economics. Absolutely.
As for me, currently I'm actually returning back into computer science. Previously, I was a journalist for 10 years. So,
what did you cover specifically, or was it just general?
city and county politics with an eventual focus on some national military issues working with the DoD in the U.S.
Ah.
So light reading.
The last thing I did was
Yeah. All right. So I guess that just leaves me, and I'm an open book. I like things that are replayable. Replayability is huge for me, which is why most of the games I wind up playing are multiplayer, because I can only play a single-player game for so long, unless it's fucking Civilization. God damn it, I can't stop playing Civ and anything else like Civ. Like, I really just want to play Total War, but it's still so fucking broken. Rome. Fix Rome. Anyway, Rome 2, I should say. So that's me. I'm a huge fan of sci-fi, obviously, and my sort of milestone games in my life have been, let's see, the original Red Alert was a game that I first started like playing online. Like when other people were playing Warcraft 3 as their big, that was like Red Alert was like the thing I played. I was like, I can play against other people, and I'm like the general. This is fantastic. That was like my seminal thing. But also way back then, I was playing Chuck Yeager's Air Combat and what's it, Top Gun. I was amazed they had a game with people from the TV in it. That was great. They had the live action, and they actually had the guy from the movie. So there were those, and then of course Battlefield 1942. I sunk so many hours into, and I played tons of first-person shooters too. Counter-Strike and A Day of Defeat. I love World War II, so I played tons of Day of Defeat. The first 2 Call of Duties. Everything else after that is like the Matrix sequels. I completely ignore them. I pretend they don't exist. So we then go on into more recent times. I played Rise of Nations, my favorite RTS of all time. And when I say recent times, I'm getting to 2005, I guess. But Rise of Nations, please, if anybody with any power is listening, Rise of Nations HD on Steam. Make it happen, people. I will buy 500 copies. I will play the shit out of that game. I will stream it. I don't care. Best RTS in existence. Company of Heroes 2.
This constitutes a verbal contract.
Yes, indeed. Company of Heroes, by the way, when I say Company of Heroes 2, I meant Company of Heroes also a very strong RTS game, the original that I played for so long, and I made my podcast about it, all kinds of things. And then more recently, I've been playing a lot of Hawken and Guild Wars 2, obviously. We played a ton of that. I played more of that recently than many other games, obviously. And that's about me. And Hawken's been a big fun that we've been playing recently. If you guys want to play with us, by the way, teamlegacy.net is the website where you can join our gaming community. It's open to anybody who wants to come in and play with us. You can jump on the TeamSpeak, and if you see somebody playing a game and you want to join them, you can just send them a quick private message. Say, hey, I want to join the community. Can you give me some permission so I can hop in here and play with you? We're playing Smite. We're playing League of Legends. We're playing Hawken. We're playing all kinds of stuff on there, but those are probably the most popular ones at the moment. That and Final Fantasy 14. We got to play some Guns of Icarus last night.
We did that last night, yeah.
That was a lot of fun. So...
And I can give you my recommendation. If you want to hop in and talk to guys, they're a great bunch of guys. As long as you can get past the terrible racist jokes. No, I'm just kidding. There wasn't any of that.
And that's one of the things that
crap out of you.
because we do pride ourselves on having a drama-free environment, and to that end, we restrict the use of any discussion of politics or religion. Because while the discussions may be perfectly valid and are entirely good things to have, they're not something we want to promote within the context of our gaming community. So if we found, and this has worked very well for us, if we just say nobody's allowed to have any discussions on politics or religion, 95% of all drama disappears from the community. It is like a magic bullet. It really is. It's fantastic. So with that all having been said, there's one more piece we have to take care of before we go tonight. And it's something that nobody else even knows about. I've been working on this secretly. The other hosts are currently at a loss. Callie, can you close your video and open it again? Just turn it off and on.
I love this camera. I do. I mean that.
That's Skype. It's not even the camera. If somebody can come up with a better Goram system, and you know what we're going to do before next week, we need to test Google Hangouts and see if it's a better solution for this thing, because, man, Skype is the best I've found, and it's still horrible. All right, so Calathulu is the first one to be put through.
I look forward to it.
The mystery gauntlet. We call it the gauntlet. All right, here we go. What if you think lightning round, you might be correct in this, all right? So this is how it's going to work. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. You're going to be pressured to answer them really quickly by the choice of music that I make. All right?
Okay.
Here we go. Let me make sure I have it up. There we go. All right. Here's the gauntlet, ladies and gentlemen. Favorite ship, Freelancer or Constellation?
Constellation.
Would you rather fly an X-Wing or a TIE Fighter?
TIE Fighter.
Okay, Citizen or Pirate? Arr.
Pirate. Arr.
Who would win in a fight? My music? My music? There we go. Who would win in a fight? Chris Roberts or Captain Kirk?
Your music, then Captain Kirk.
Okay, Battlestar Galactica or Doctor Who?
Doctor Who.
Oh, that was easy. That sounded very forceful. Best visual look, RSI, Origin, MISC, Drake, Aegis, or Anvil?
Anvil.
Anvil, okay. Now for the curveball, Colbert or Stewart?
Stewart.
Man after my own heart. And finally, the open-ended question, what is the best sci-fi story of all time?
The best sci-fi story of all time? The classic Haldeman novel, The Forever War.
Okay. I didn't see. I expected Dune. I expected Star Wars. I expected plenty of other things. I didn't expect that.
Now, there's a caveat on that. Do not read the sequels. Don't do it. Don't read the sequels.
It sounds like the advice I've gotten when people talk about Ender's Game, and I was like, so there's some other games in the series, right? No, Speaker of the Dead does not exist. All right, guess what, guys? We're at like an hour and 5 minutes. I've successfully avoided a show that went over an hour and a half. I'm amazed. And all it took is for me to only put one topic in the show. All right.
That's a good format. One topic a show.
I think so. It's a lot like, and I didn't mention earlier, I should mention, Sonny's Diner is a great podcast, by the way. For those of you that enjoyed this podcast, I've been listening to Sonny's Diner, which is another Star Citizen podcast from the people over at Mog Nation. And it's really well done. They do one topic per show as well, and they have a fairly similar format to what we're doing here. They have a slightly different take on it, but I really enjoy it and I recommend it. And I've been talking to Sonny. He had some problems with his host originally having a baby. And when I say problems, I mean issues. And when I say issues, I mean glorious, beneficial to everyone, good things that unfortunately cause gaming and podcasts to go off to the side.
But still happy for.
Yes, exactly. Happy problems. There you go. That's a brand new coined term for today. I'm just going to stop putting my foot in my mouth and end the show here. Whoa! Gray went Super Cylon
Yes,
there for a
he
second.
did.
He just went Super Saiyan Cylon? Super Scion? I think we're going to end the show there. All right.
You had fun effects on your camera there.
Yeah. All right, everybody.
We'll see it in post.
We'll see you in post. We'll see you in 2 weeks. December 1st is the next show we'll be recording, and you can watch and listen to what we've got going on here on the YouTube channel Sound Strategy Network. You can watch and listen on twitch.tv when we're live, twitch.tv/Bridger15, and you can listen to it on the audio podcast feed, which you can find in the show notes and in the and in the description of the videos on YouTube for now. I'm going to build a website and have everything as we get further into the game, closer to the game's release and everything. But for right now, the best place to find it is more of those YouTube-y thingies. But once you get the audio podcast, you should be good to go. All right, that's it. Have a good everybody, and see you in the hangar module, I guess.
Yeah, good. The multiplayer hangar.
Fish stream. When's that coming? Next one? That may have been officially the worst sign-off I've ever done, but it was effective, I suppose.
It went well. It shows your human side.
Yeah. Citizen number 99354 reporting for duty. I wanted to pin that to my shirt somehow. Just do that for the show. Just to show my creds. My creds when I bought a scout package and then later upgraded to a freelancer, but I did it too late to get a cooler, silver thing. So I'm just rocking the plastic white badge of honor.
See, I went straight rear admiral, which sounds dirtier than it is.
Yes. Yes, indeed. It was like a distress call. I think Twigs was talking about when your screen went all yellow. I'm not sure why you're all pixelated now, Gray. Did somebody start a torrent at your house, or is it my end? I don't know.
I saw it on
quite
mine.
a while here. I think it's on. I think it's something to do with the stream because I see a clear vision. I see a clear view on mine, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely not your cam. It's absolutely Skype. Skype has basically reduced the quality of your connection, which means it's it makes it more difficult to understand you because it's all Cylon-y and you're all pixelated. So I don't know why they've reduced the quality of your connection.
Is my voice coming through weird too?
Yes. Your voice is coming through weird.
Very compressed, I guess the name would be. If you hover over your Skype, does it show an exclamation point saying there's something wrong with your connection?
No, it's all coming through fine.
Okay, I wonder if my bandwidth is too much. But Calathulu, is he okay when you're looking at him?
Not even a little bit.
Oh, so he's pixelated
It's all
on
pixelated.
you too. So we're gonna blame it all on Gray. But it worked so great for the beginning. I just wish you could.
Maybe I can join in back into call. Let me test this real quick.
All right, and I think, like I said, I would love to try Google Hangouts because they might have a better way of forcing the quality. Is what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, Gray. I think we're still up on Twitch.
Yeah, we're still streaming, by the way. I usually do an after show where we just talk with the chat people for a while.
Understood.
Oh, somebody in the YouTube chat noticed your comment about the Forever War. They said that they were like, "Oh man, the sequels are great." He said the sequels are great. Shut up. Mr. Gamer 1010 is also on YouTube saying hello. So hopefully the quality came out really well. I got the audio quality will be fine because I recorded that separately. So that should be good. All right, things to do for next week. Have a better closer prepared than that. And also, hopefully, we can have something else put in that middle segment of the main screen. And next week's show topic will be PvP versus PvE, because that's always a very calm and rational discussion everywhere you go. And probably the PvP slider will make a big appearance in next week's show.
Well, awesome.
So that should be good. Oh, it's prime time.
Yeah.
Prime time where Gray is. That's why
Yeah.
so we kicked
Well,
it into prime time.
It's prime time here. I just, have
What's
an end
your
with my
speed
cable
test?
company.
What's your speed test normally like, Gray?
Usually it's somewhere in a solid B. Let me.
Like 10 or
quick one
12 meg pipe?
Pardon?
Like a 10 or 12 meg pipe, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I've got the speed boosted net here, so it's not low end.
Are you guys all on Google? Maybe we can just try a hangout right now. Just see what
Yeah,
happens.
we can do that.
Yeah, sure.
I'm on Google. I will sign in happily to my mail.
I don't even know how to start that, by the way. I think I have to have you on my Google Plus.
You have to have me in the Hangouts.
I don't even know where
So,
that is.
Basically, if I type in Bridger, Adam Rezo 15, I click in the little like thing there.
But where did you go?
That
Did you go to
starts
Google
a
Plus to
hangout.
start with? Or did you go to Gmail?
So I went to mail.google.com,
Oh,
and
you
then
were
I
on
signed
Gmail.
into the Hangouts there on the
On the left
side, just below your various inboxes.
All right. Let me see. There. I got one. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to close mine out. Go ahead and type in, boclark@gmail.com and hit enter. That'll start a new
I
Hangout.
just hit a video call and I called both of you.
Okay.
Do you see
So
that,
this-
Gray? Do you see the call?
It should pop up here momentarily.
Oh,
for
install
both
plugin.
of them. Oh, well.
I reinstalled Windows a while ago and I have not yet used Hangouts with it.
All right, so let's go take. I ran speed test. So Gray, I got 2.93 up, and I don't think I'm pixelated. So
No, you're not pixelated.
yeah.
Yeah.
Calathulu's been coming through good the whole time. I think the
I was
Skype
about
may just hate
58
you.
down.
Oh, your audio has
11.6
just
up.
improved a lot, Gray.
yeah, it just jumped up.
I
Maybe
don't know what's up with that.
force something through the tubes.
Yes, force the tubes.
Clog in the
That doesn't
tubes.
sound good at all. You're about to join a video call. You're the first one here.
Okay, I didn't get a
Fantastic.
request.
Noah's been invited to this call. Invite people. Okay, maybe
There you
I
go.
didn't do it right. Let me see. Okay. Okay, I think if I submit invitation
Here we
posted.
go. I will answer on my computer and not on my phone, which also popped up with that.
Default device.
Oh, I have to install a plugin. Shit.
You all must install plugins. Mwah!
I'm going to turn video off on here so I can send it. Verify. Oh, is this why I didn't install
Test.
the plugin last time? Because it asked me to verify the installation for like an hour.
Well.
Let's see.
Okay.
Download
Save.
Google Voice. Google Voice and video calls installers initializing. Downloading Google Voice and video calls.
Did you
I
get
think
if you go to Gmail, do you get my request, Gray?
Yeah, I think I did. Hold on just a second. I just joined up on the Google Plus thing, so it'll let me do it at all. But
Huh.
let's see, join
All right.
Hangout.
How do I tell it not to mirror that? Maybe I
I
can't.
don't know what to tell you that.
The
All right.
limit bandwidth. Hell no.
Ah.
Auto HD.
There you
Okay.
go.
I see Ben.
All right. I'm unmiking
I'm installing
myself
the
in
plugin. Give me just a
Skype.
moment.
So you got my video?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm getting a lovely echo effect from the Skype call, so I will-
Oh, it's coming back through Skype to. Oh.
you're sending it to both, basically.
Oh, wait. I shouldn't be sending you to anybody. Oh, you mean I'm echoing?
Yes, like you have 2 channels.
There we go. I've muted myself on the Google Hangouts.
Okay.
Wait. There we go. Okay.
There you go.
I'm closing the Skype call.
There we go. Well done.
I'm closing. Click. There we go.
There we go. Now we've got. Now, can we get you guys all up ons at the same time?
That I don't know the answer to. It could be a settings thing. Let's see. Default device, cancel. Screen share.
No.
No.
Because right now, what it does by default, Google Effects.
Google Effects.
What is this?
No.
What did you do? Are you a wizard? What is this nonsense? All right, I'm putting my official webcam in here. You guys can't see this, so I will have to. There we go.
That's much better. Oh my.
There we go. What? Arr, matey. Arr.
Yeah, that's entertaining.
You can randomize it.
Well, that's a little irritating.
What is the clicking? What?
No, that's not irritating at all.
What the hell are we doing? I didn't know that Google Hangouts could be this much fun. I thought the people on the commercial having fun were really just being paid to have fun.